Hi, good morning, everyone. Today we are going to go ahead and we are going to talk about central bank, commercial bank, and about what is the role of these two, right? Further, the aim is to understand how the central bank goes ahead and affects the monetary policies of any country, right? So let us go ahead and let us begin by talking first about central bank better. Now, generally speaking, whenever we talk about central bank, so there are two kind of policies we know, right? One is a fiscal policy and one is a monetary policy. Monetary policy are those kind of policies in which we go ahead and we change the supply of money of the economy, right? And by changing the supply of money, we affect the different factors like inflation in the economy, like interest rate in economy, like employment in economy, etc. That is about the first one, which is your monetary policy. Fiscal policy, which we will see soon that how fiscal and monetary are related to each other. So fiscal policy is basically something which is taking its path through government expenditure, through government taxations, right? And at some point, these two will, be taken into each other accounting, right? So when I make a fiscal policy decision, I have to account that the same thing can be done through a monetary policy also, right? But the impact can be different. For example, what I mean is, let's say that this is my IAS curve and this is my LM curve. Now, if I do an expansionary fiscal policy, then also I will be able to increase the output, but it will be it will be followed by increase in interest rate. But if I go ahead and if I do a monetary policy instead of a fiscal policy, if I would have brought in a monetary policy, something like this, expansionary monetary policy, that would have also increased my output by the same amount, you see? But that would have led to decrease in interest rate. So what I want to do I want to increase interest rate with output or do I want to decrease interest rate with output? That will determine whether I want to go through the fiscal policy route or the monetary policy route. So while taking decision what to do, there are multiple factors. Do we want to go through the central bank route or the government route? And that is in turn, it depends on these factors that whether I want to increase interest rate or decrease interest rate, increase inflation or decrease inflation, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, to begin with, let us first understand what is a central bank. So when we talk about central bank, a central bank is basically, it's the apex financial body, right? What does it do? It basically goes ahead and it entirely deals with the banking system of the country, right? What will be the CRR? What will be the SLR? What will be the interest rate in the economy? What will be the inflation in the economy? How to manage the currency in the economy? How much currency will be flowing in the economy? Everything will be managed by central bank. Now, unlike the commercial banks who operate on profit, central bank does not operate on profit. There is no profit making for the central bank, right? The aim of central bank is to ensure that the banking system works well, right? But as such, the central bank is not aiming at earning some profit. Right? Commercial bank paisa earn karta hai. It takes deposit at a certain interest rate. It gives loan at a higher interest rate, and in between, it will make profit. But that's not the way that any central bank is going to go ahead and work. So you need to also understand this fact. Okay, now just write with me. A central bank is the apex financial institution in a country responsible for regulating monetary and banking system. Right? It does not operate for profit. And is primarily tasked with ensuring macroeconomic stability, such as price stability, financial stability, and currency management. Right? Example, Reserve Bank of India is the central bank of India. Is the central bank of India. Right? So now that we have understood what a central bank is, we want to understand two kind of things, right? The first one is that what is the objective of a central bank? Why do we go ahead and why do we form central bank, right? And the second thing that we want to go ahead and we want to understand is what are the functions of central bank? दोनों में difference है. Objective means the reason why central bank was formed in the first place. And function is what it performs. What are the things that a central bank does? So we want to go ahead and understand both of them, right? So first of all, please write down the functions of the central bank. From functions of central bank, you will automatically understand why a central bank is formed. What are the objectives of central bank? Try to understand. What I do is the reason I was formed, right? तो सेंट्रल बैंक जो भी काम करेगा उसी के लिए ही वो फॉर्म हुआ है. तो ऑब्जेक्टिव आप खुद से समझ पाओगे जब आप ये समझोगे कि वो क्या काम करता है, राइट? So a central bank, it goes ahead and it performs various functions, but the first core function that it performs, that is basically monetary policy. Right? Monetary policy means what? What will be the amount of money supply in the economy? What will be the amount of, interest rate in the economy? How much credit will flow in the economy, right? What will be the different operations like open market operation, reserve requirement, etc., in order to get towards economic growth. So we have already studied the instruments of monetary market, money market, right? And we have seen that when we fluctuate these instruments, when we fluctuate reserve ratios, when we fluctuate policy rates, right? LAF, MSS, when we fluctuate them, it changes the amount of credit in the economy, right? And when the amount of credit changes in the economy, it changes the aggregate demand in the economy. And when aggregate demand changes, it changes the inflation and economic growth of the economy. So basically, जो इसका पहला फंक्शन है वो है इस पूरी चीज को देखना मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी के थ्रू. तो प्लीज राइट डाउन. one of the primary functions of central bank is to formulate and implement monetary policy. This involves money supply management, interest rate management, and credit creation, right? So credit creation can be done how? By using tools, I'm writing in bracket, including open market operations, reserve requirement, and policy rate adjustments, right? So it can first, but it has to understand how much money should be there in the economy, किस इंटरेस्ट रेट पे इकोनॉमी रहेगी, और क्रेडिट क्रिएशन कितना होगा, और ये सब वो क्यों कर रहे हैं? टू रीच टू सम मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक गोल्स, जैसे इन्फ्लेशन कितना होना चाहिए, जैसे इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ कितनी होनी चाहिए, जैसे फुल एम्प्लॉयमेंट लेवल अभी अटेन करना है या नहीं करना है, राइट? सो इट इज डूइंग दीज थिंग्स टू achieve specific macroeconomic goals such as price stability, sustainable economic growth, and full employment. Right? This is the first function. Second function, beta. That is currency issuance and management. So, अब जो हमारा नेक्स्ट रूल आता है वो ये आता है, बहुत सिंपल है, कि हमारे पास एज अ सेंट्रल बैंक वी हैव द अथॉरिटी टू रेगुलेट कंट्रीज करेंसी, कितनी करेंसी एक कंट्री में होगी, राइट? कितने बैंक नोट होंगे, कितने कॉइन होंगे, to ensure that it is fiat money, it is accepted throughout the country, right? To ensure that people have confidence in the national currency. ऐसा ना हो कि वो करेंसी का कोई वैल्यू ही ना हो, right? We have to ensure that people value that currency, right? All that is also the task of the central bank. So please write down with me. Central bank have the authority to issue and regulate the country's currency. They ensure adequate supply of banknote and coins in circulation, maintain integrity of the currency, and manage currency reserves, right? It plays a vital role in ensuring stability and confidence in national currency. So in order to ensure that, my currency, it is stable, it doesn't lose its value, not in only in the domestic country, but in the foreign country also. To ensure that people have confidence in your currency, कि अगर कोई rupees hold कर रहा है, तो ये ना हो कि कल को उसको लगे कि, I don't have any worthy currency. I am not, even if I hold this much money, in a way I don't have money. ऐसा feel नहीं आना चाहिए, right? People should not feel discouraged about owning your currency. They should have confidence in your currency. Even that's the role of the central bank. If that's the function of central bank. Okay. Third, bankers bank and government's bank. Now, जैसे हमारे लिए बैंक क्या काम करता है कि हमसे डिपॉजिट लेता है और हमें लोन देता है, that is exactly what the central bank is doing for the bank. It is taking deposits from the commercial bank and it is able to give loan to the commercial bank. Not only this, central bank is also called as lender of last resort. यह भी अभी हम लिखेंगे. Lenders of last resort का क्या मतलब है? That during financial distress, when, all of a sudden commercial bank needs money and it does not have money, it is the central bank who will come to the rescue of the commercial bank, and it is the central bank who will give funds to the commercial bank, right? Similarly happens with the government also. ठीक है, गवर्नमेंट के सारे अकाउंट्स मैनेज करना, ये इंश्योर करना कि जब गवर्नमेंट को ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशन के थ्रू डेट रेज करना है, पब्लिक से उसको हेल्प करना, गवर्नमेंट की सारी ट्रांजैक्शंस को फैसिलिटेट करना, right? That is also the role of the central bank. So please write with me. Central bank acts as banker to the commercial bank and the government. They provide banking service to commercial bank and the government, right? It maintains commercial banks accounts, processes payment, and acts as lender of last resort, right? During the time of financial distress, right? It also manages the government's account. बेटा it is important to write. जितना लिखोगे उतना ही you will be habitual to writing, उतना ही it will sink in your mind. Conduct debt auctions and facilitate government transactions. Right. So please understand that central bank is managing the government's accounts. It is conducting debt auctions for the government. It is facilitating government's transactions. Okay, the next function of the central bank, that is called as financial system stability. So all of you would be aware of the different financial crises that have come in the past, right? So we know that one of the very, very famous financial crises is the 2008 financial crisis. And what happened during that financial crisis is that the commercial banks were giving loans without looking at the credit rating of the people, right? Anyone was getting a loan. Anyone and anybody was getting a loan. And what it led to is the boom in the housing market, right? And then the boom bursted when people could not repay the loan, right? So during such financial problems, financial crisis, right? Who ensures that there will be stability, right? Who ensures that even if something goes bankrupt, a commercial bank goes bankrupt, who monitors these systematic risks? Who ensures that there will not be such financial crisis, right? This is where the central bank comes into picture. ठीक है, वो इंश्योर करता है कि जो बैंक्स हैं वो इंसॉल्वेंट ना हो जाएं, वो इंश्योर करता है कि बैंक्स इनफ रिजर्व्स रखें, वो इंश्योर करता है कि इकोनॉमी स्टेबल रहे, वो इंश्योर करता है कि बहुत ज्यादा रिस्की सिचुएशन कभी आए ना. सो ऑल दैट इज द रोल ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम, राइट? सो प्लीज राइट डाउन. Central bank plays a crucial role in maintaining the stability and soundness of the financial system. They supervise and regulate banks and other financial institutes to ensure their solvency and stability and compliance with prudential regulations. So you may be aware that we have something which is known as Basel, Basel 1, Basel 2, and Basel 3, right? Now, what is this Basel beta? Basel is basically kind of banking norms, right? And why these banking norms were set? To ensure that banks have financial stability, to ensure risk management practices, okay? To prevent banking crisis, these Basel norms came, okay? अब ये बेसल नॉर्म्स कंट्री में ढंग से चले, इनको फॉलो किया जाए, ठीक है? बेसल नॉर्म्स में बहुत कुछ आता है कि आप मिनिमम कैपिटल रिक्वायरमेंट रखो, आप ढंग से सुपरवाइज करते रहो कमर्शियल बैंक्स को, एक मार्केट डिसिप्लिन बना रहे, एक ट्रांसपेरेंसी बनी रहे कमर्शियल बैंक्स की. तो ये सब कौन इंश्योर करेगा कि ये बेसल नॉर्म्स फुलफिल हो रहे हैं? द सेंट्रल बैंक. right? It is the central bank who is going to go ahead and ensure this, isn't it? So we can go ahead and we can say that the central bank has to ensure this financial stability. ठीक है, और ये फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी कैसे हो सकती है, कैसे इंश्योर हो सकती है फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी? इन चीजों के थ्रू, ये देखना कि कमर्शियल बैंक बेसिल नॉर्म्स फॉलो कर रहा है, ये देखना कि कमर्शियल बैंक इनफ रिजर्व्स रख रहा है, ये देखना कि कमर्शियल बैंक बहुत ज्यादा रिस्क ना उठा रहा हो, जो लोगों से डिपॉजिट लिए हैं उसको सारा रिस्की सिचुएशन में रिस्की जगहों पे इन्वेस्ट ना कर रहा हो, राइट? सो टू इंश्योर ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स, to ensure the financial system stability, we have the central bank. So prudential regulations. So write down central bank monitor systematic risk, implement measures to prevent financial crisis, and act as lender of last resort to support banks during time of financial stability. During the time of financial stability. ठीक है? Okay, beta, next one. Foreign exchange management. Foreign exchange management. Now, all of you know that foreign exchange में what India follows is a mixed exchange rate policy, right? It's not neither flexible nor fixed. So what we are doing? We are ensuring that exchange rate can move according to the market, but हम इसका upper और lower limit set करके चलते हैं. And we ensure that we don't exceed this upper or go beyond the lower limit. Okay. So to regulate the foreign exchange, to ensure foreign exchange stability, right? To intervene in the foreign exchange market such that your currency does not lose too much value. That is also the role of central bank. So please write down. Central bank manages and regulates foreign exchange reserves to maintain exchange rate stability. And support international trade and financial transactions. Right? They intervene in foreign exchange market to influence the value of domestic currency and manage any imbalances or disruption. Manage any